This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to a Wednesday edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk. I'm still here in the chair. Michael Remis hosting for Hustler. He's away celebrating the Kansas City Chiefs win in another country. He'll be back next week, but I'm here, so pumped for tonight. Winnipeg Jets back on the ice, 6:30 p.m. start against the San Jose Sharks. CFL free agency continues. And we got some NHL news. I'm sure we'll talk about the 6-game suspension to Morgan Rielly that everyone's talking about. So pumped to be here. We do have some guests coming up as well. Joe Pascucci, Manitoba sports historian. We'll touch on a sad day for some Blue Bombers legends. Kenny Plain yesterday passing away at age 88, and Jerry James at age 89. Two legends with the Winnipeg Football Club. And Murat will touch on everything Winnipeg Jets, and he's got this great article on the increase in scoring at the Athletic. Did I say 5? Sorry, did I say something else for Morgan Rielly? It's 5 games. It's 5. Sorry, I thought I said 6. I thought I said it's 5 games. My bad. It is 5. Sorry, guys, you got me. 5 games for Morgan Rielly. Couldn't be here. Couldn't be here without the sponsors. Shout out to Canadian Club, Modern Man, Manitoba Battery, Winnipeg Jets, Wallace & Wallace, F Apparel, Little Brown Jug, Boston Pizza, Sport Manitoba, and Cool Bet. All right, let's start off fresh off the Winnipeg Jets morning skate. Optional. Connor Hrabchak. Connor, what's going on? Happy Valentine's Day. Big plans today for Valentine's?
Outside of the Jets game, no. I spent the morning with my girlfriend, though, so we did do some Valentine's Day activities, but got to go to the game tonight. I was at morning skate. I didn't stay for long. I was kind of just there from the time that they stepped onto the ice, and then we got Cole Perfetti we talked to after. I didn't even stick around for Rick Bonus, but yeah, morning skate, very optional, but we did see Lauren Brossoit take the optional, so that means Connor Hellebuyck is expected and probably will get the start tonight. And that's huge. He can't go a week without playing, but yeah, doing great. Excited for this game tonight.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone, you got to discuss your Valentine's Day plans. My wife and I sat at the table. I said, are we doing anything? We both agreed no. I've bought her like flowers and stuff in the past. And she's like, why are you wasting your money on this? And then I had to pick my dad up for work, and my dad's like, you got to do something. Get a card, get chocolates. So I showed up with chocolates for my wife, a nice, beautiful box. And she says, why did you waste your money on this? We already have chocolates here. So that's our feeling on Corporate Love Day, I guess. But yes, let's go over
Corporate Love Day.
We'll go over the Jets lines. Here they are. They've kind of been, they've been practicing for days, finally back in game action. Kind of strange, but hey, they'll take the practice. They got some power play practice time in yesterday, and here we go. Connor Scheifele, Ehlers, Perfetti, Monahan, Velarde, Nino, Lowry, Appleton, Barron, Nemesnikov, Iafallo, Morrissey, DeMello, Sandberg, Pionk, Stanley, Schmidt. Connor, what are you looking forward to most about tonight's game against San Jose?
I mean, we talked about it on Monday, but the Scheifele-Ehlers connection is one that is really, really been there the whole season, especially when Kyle Connor was out. I'm looking forward to seeing that again tonight, but I'm focusing on that second line. Monahan hasn't scored yet. He hasn't got a point. Velarde's in a slump. He made that well aware in practice. I think it was yesterday. He was not happy with the way he's playing recently. And Cole Perfetti also in a bit of a slump. Like he made some nice plays in the Pittsburgh game, but it's not translating to points right now. It's not translating to goals. So that second line, I think, has to get going against a team like San Jose. Perfect opportunity, multiple days of practice. The time is now, and I think we know that the first line and the third line can be relied on to produce, but it's that second line that I'm going to be keeping an eye on for sure.
Yeah, the second line, we talked about it yesterday. Velarde in a 5-game pointless streak, and Cole Perfetti at 7. Velarde was banged up a bit before the break. Missed a couple, but he's in. The Jets, massive favorites tonight. Oh my God, their implied goal total opened at 4, so they've struggled to score coming out of the break, scoring 0, then 1, then 2. The odds makers thinking we might see a bit of an explosion and perfect time for that. And Connor Hellebuyck starting a goal. You thought maybe they would go with Brossoit just with the opponent, but I think the schedule is kind of dictating, hey, it's a Hellebuyck night, eh, Connor?
Yeah, like I said to start the show, he can't go a week without playing. That would be Saturday to Saturday. Big game Saturday night against Vancouver, which kind of gives tonight's game a bit of a trap game vibe, but we're not going to say that. We're not going to, manifest that too much. But there's they had 2 days of practice. They have 2 days before the next game. This shouldn't even be considered a trap game. I don't know why I just said it just now. But Saturday night, Vancouver, huge game. Super excited for that one. Hellebuyck, I'm sure will get the start in that game as well. And Laurent Brossoit is going to get a ton of opportunities. I think it was Gabriel Velarde in practice yesterday was talking about the Jets schedule in March. And it is a heavy schedule in March. I think they play 16 games in 29 days. So basically every other day with a back-to-back mixed in here and there. Maybe they get an extra day off. But they're going to be playing a lot of games in March. Laurent Brossoit is going to get a lot of those starts, especially if the Jets are in a playoff spot. You want to rest Hellebuyck a little bit going into the playoffs. But as the schedule permits over this next week, I like Hellebuyck to get all 3 of these starts.
Yeah, we got big tilt coming up Saturday against Vancouver in Vancouver. I can't wait to see how those two teams match up. Vancouver's had quite a season. And yeah, tonight against San Jose. And interestingly enough, the Sharks' schedule, the Jets had their all-star, bye week before the game. And the Sharks was after. The Sharks last played January 31. They lost 3-2 to Anaheim in overtime. Haven't played since. I think the numbers are when a team, the rested team after the long break versus the team that's been going, it's not great. And I'm looking at the odds on Coolbet. This is, you mentioned trap game. The Jets, I don't know if I've ever seen a favorite this high, at least not in a while. -446 favorite for the Jets. If you're looking at Money Puck, they have the Jets as an 80% favorite. And I haven't put the math in, but that's pretty strong.
It's just scary. It's just scary. It feels like there's all they can do is lose tonight. All they have, all the stakes are just it's win, which is like, oh, that's what you're supposed to do, or lose, and everyone goes nuts. It's kind of a lose-lose in their scenario.
Yeah, looking at the goalie on the other end, I think it's Mackenzie Blackwood.
No, Kakinen's getting the start tonight.
Capo Kakinen. Oh, so okay, we don't get Blackwood. We get Kakinen. Yeah. Blackwood. He stoned the Jets the other time. And here, we'll get to Rick. I'll play a couple clips here from Rick Bowness from his availability before the game. He talked about, we just mentioned this, playing the Sharks, who've been off. They haven't played for 2 weeks. Here's Rick Bowness on that.
It is, yeah, that's rare. For sure it is. I was talking to Thomas Hurdle at the All-Star break, and that's the first thing he said. We don't play for 2 weeks until we see you, so they're aware of it. But, they've had a couple of days of practice, and, Yeah, it's rare. We focus on ourselves. We just have to make sure we get out and get after them like right away. We want to put a lot of pressure on them right away. We want to make them defend. We want to just pressure them all over the ice. Look at that first 5 minutes of that last game. We had 4 grade A's. Like we walked right in and we didn't score. So if we get those grade A's early tonight, we won.
Let me redo. I was muted there. Okay, I forgot about that. And Rick Bowness, tonight's goalie is Capo Kakinen. He's got a .355 goals against, .901 save percentage. And you looked at those games, the Jets 1-1 against the San Jose Sharks. And here's Rick Bowness on what he would do different this game than last game against the San Jose Sharks.
Look at that first 5 minutes of that last game. We had 4 grade A's. Like we walked right in and we didn't score. So if we get those grade A's early tonight, we want to see the puck go in the net. Those were just great chances, and we didn't score. And when that happens, the other team kind of wakes up and gives them a chance to get their game going. You score early in those situations, you put them down. That's what we want to do tonight. But if we can get those same situations that we had early in that game, then hopefully the puck will go in.
All right, there's Rick Bowness on tonight's game versus the San Jose Sharks. Connor, I'm all rattled here. I had myself muted and then didn't cut to the clip. But you have to think,
we're live.
Have to think the Jets are feeling pretty good tonight after this week of practice. Anything you want to see here from the power play that hasn't had a lot of success? They practiced it yesterday. What do the Jets need to get going here if they want to put some goals in there?
I think they need some reps tonight. Like Mike McIntyre said it when he was on the program yesterday. They haven't had many opportunities lately. And getting on a team like the Sharks, who haven't played in 2 weeks, getting on them early, this is what you got to do. And getting some power play opportunities, getting that first unit in rhythm, Monahan in the bumper, a spot he's comfortable in, but maybe not with this roster, with these players. So getting reps, getting that power play going, getting some chances. San Jose, I haven't looked, but I'm sure they have one of the worst penalty kills in the league. So not just the reps, but the results as well. And getting chances, getting shots, all the things that Rick Bowness has said. But I hope that they get 3 or 4 power play opportunities tonight just so that they can get some extended in-game run, because we know they've practiced, but you can't replicate game speed, game reads, and things like that. So I want to see them get 3 or 4 power plays tonight and really get in a rhythm. So that when they go play a team like a Vancouver, or next week when they're playing Calgary and Minnesota back-to-back, they're not losing games because of their special teams. They have it on point, and maybe the power play can slowly improve, take some baby steps tonight. But yeah, just opportunities, chances, and hopefully the production follows, because a team like San Jose probably doesn't have a good penalty kill. I haven't looked, but I feel pretty confident saying that.
Yeah, let's take a look at the San Jose lines. They're missing Tomas Hertl. I mean, not a lot of recognizable names in this one. Hold on, I had the lines. Oh, here they are. And not a lot of recognizable. Zetterlund, Granlund, Duclair, and Duclair is a name that I wonder if he could be on the move. And I saw Elliot Friedman saying, the Sharks, normally they would be sellers, but they don't exactly have, a lot of names that teams would want. And I guess that's what happens when you're, that's why they're near the bottom of the standings and projected to get one of the top picks at the draft. Barabanov, Eklund, Lukanen, Mike Hoffman, Sturm, McDonald there on the third line. Bailey, Carpenter, and Zadina, who was a kind of reclamation project, former top pick from Detroit. And Mario Ferraro, Jan Ruda, Mark Edward Vlasic, Ty Emberson, Kyle Burrows, and Kalen Addison, the Manitoban. So not a lot of household names with this San Jose Sharks lineup. Looking back at the Jets lines, this is their final game without Brendan Dillon, serving the third game of his 3-game suspension. And one guy who has stepped up in Brendan Dillon's absence, Dylan Samberg. Connor, what do you think make of his play, in the increased role here since the Dillon suspension?
Yeah, I really liked his play because before the break as well, Morrissey went out of that game with an injury. I believe there was another game where someone left early with an injury or with a penalty of that nature.
And I think Dillon was injured. I think Morrissey got injured, and
Right,
there was a couple in a row there.
Right.
Yeah, and Dillon got suspended. So yeah, the 3 games.
Right. So it feels like Samberg's been on the second pair for almost like 2-3 weeks now. But those games before the break, I really liked how he played. I think I said on the episode of Winnipeg Jets Weekly that was his best game as a Jet, even though like he hadn't scored. But then he did score in the home Toronto game. But I was talking about the away Toronto game. But he played great in both of those games. And he was the first start of the week because the Jets didn't score any other goals that week. But carried that into, obviously, Dillon, the suspension, not ideal, but Samberg stepped up. He's been fantastic, and he's exactly what you want. The Jets bridged him in the offseason with the 2-year deal, $1.4 million on the cap hit, and he's been great. He's improved yet again. He just is steadily improving, and he's shown that he can handle second pairing minutes. And I think he's been carrying that for 2-3 weeks now. And it's very nice to see because we talk about the defense and how good this team is and how they're bought in defensively. But then we also talk about how they might want to add on the back end. But then you realize that their third pairing left defenseman can step up in the second pair, no issues, and look fantastic. So Dylan Samberg having another amazing year. And I think this last 3 weeks have just kind of highlighted that even more as he's been in that elevated role, like you say.
Yeah, Dylan Samberg still feels like a rookie, but he's played 128 games in the league. Yeah. This is his third season. I mean, second, I think, full, or maybe first as a regular. I mean, he played 63 last year, 50 this season, and only 15 in 21, 22. Well, it's going up and down with the Moose. Here's Rick Bowness today on what he's seen from Dylan Samberg.
He's been fine. He hasn't. He's handled the minutes fine. He's been one of our penalty killers all year. So I know there's been games where even when he was on that third pairing, his minutes were up because he was playing well. So I didn't see any difference at all. He plays the same way regardless of the minutes, and he's just very steady back there.
Very steady. Certainly a nice way to describe Dylan Samberg. And a lot of talk about the forwards. They move back Ehlers with Scheifele and Connor as line 1, but this line 2, they need to get the secondary scoring. Connor and I have already touched on the droughts for Vilardi and Perfetti. Monahan still hasn't scored with the Jets. Here's Rick Bowness on what he wants to see from that line.
You just want to see some chemistry in terms of creating offense, reading off of each other. Sean hangs onto the puck really well, and he's a good playmaker, and he has good vision. So it's up to the other two to be moving for him and getting into those positions that get the passes and make something out of it. So you'd really just need looking for chemistry. There's been some signs of it. The more they play together, the more you hope that chemistry grows.
Completely by design that you wanted to put Sean beside Cole in the dressing room once he arrived, not just as a centerman, but almost as like a mentor too?
Yes, they have to get to know each other. We need something out of our second line. So if they can sit together and the bench, I'm in the dressing room, even in practices, it's important. They're talking, getting ready for practice. They're talking all the time. So you have to build that chemistry. It starts off ice. So I put them there specifically for that, to help that chemistry grow as fast as we can get it there, because we do need more from our second line.
There's Rick Bowness saying they need more from the second line, more secondary scoring. You think, Sean, I haven't looked at the odds, but Sean Monahan, he's got to score one of these days here for the Jets, Connor.
He came really close in that Pittsburgh game, right? The Saturday, the fake clapper on the penalty kill was real close to getting it there. And I think he's looked better with every single game. And like I said, I'll be watching that second line. I do think that one of those 3 players has a goal tonight, whether it's Perfetti, Monahan, or Vilardi. They generated a lot, especially in the first period of that Pittsburgh game. I think against a team like San Jose, multiple days to practice, Sean Monahan gets his first point as a Jet tonight. I'm making a prediction,
Wow.
but
Big prediction.
making the call. But he's getting better with every game, and he came so close in that Pittsburgh game. I don't even know if that's really a hot take, but I'm excited to see that line, and I think Monahan gets it done.
He is on power play one. The team's implied goal total tonight, according to the bookmakers, is like 3.8. So there's going to be goals. They're expecting it, and I think he's going to be involved in one of them. Moving on from the Jets to the Bombers, GM Kyle Walters spoke to some media. Shout out to Ed Tate and Derek Taylor, putting this out there. It doesn't sound like Rashid Bailey is going to be back, but I think we thought that last year, but it seems like this time doesn't sound like he's going to be back. He did post on his Instagram reel that he's kind of feeling nervous, and his phone hasn't been ringing. You got to stay confident. Doubt creeps in. Wishing all the best for Rashid. He's been a great guest on this program and a great member of the Blue Bombers. Winston Rose doesn't sound like he's coming back. And on the O-line, Jeff Gray sounds like it won't be returning, according to, that's what Kyle Walters said, reported by Derek Taylor and Ed Tate. Tyrell Ford, who spent some time in the NFL, he's coming in to play DB this year. He was a top pick a couple of years ago. So that's brother of Trey Ford with Edmonton. And talk about continuity in a league that doesn't seem to have a lot, to see so many players moving around in the CFL. 18 of the 24 starters from the Bombers in the Grey Cup will be back this season. So I don't think there's like official odds, but I would put the Bombers ahead of any other team as long as they got Zach Collaros. Quarterback matters so much, and he's shown he can be the guy to lead the team to a Grey Cup now 4 straight seasons. Speaking of 4, it wasn't 4. It was 5 games yesterday for Morgan Rielly. We got to touch on this before we get to Joe. I wanted to weigh in. Okay, what is your initial reaction when you heard the 5 games for Morgan Rielly?
Yeah, I mean, it was right about where I thought it would be, anywhere between like 4 and 6 or 7-ish. I mean, I said on Wednesday that I wouldn't be shocked if Department of Player Safety went like 2 or 3. But again, like this is we all saw the play, cross-checked a guy in the side of the head after the play. And we talked about whether the slap shot was ethical on Monday, but regardless, there are different ways to handle that if you're going to handle it as a player, which I think you should. You should handle it. Don't let a guy take a slap shot into your net, but don't handle it by cross-checking him in the side of the head. 5 games, I think, is perfect. I see people put polls out online, and it's like, was it too low, too high, or just right for the suspension? And like, just right will be 44%, and then both too high and too low will be like tied at 28%. And it's like, well, then theoretically they got it right, because if the majority thinks they got it right and is an even split of people who think it's too high and too low, then theoretically it's right. I saw a bunch of polls online, and most of them, the majority was like, this is good. Like this is what people thought it should be. Whether it's consistent with past things like the Jacob Trouba slash to the head, or other cross checks that have happened this year, we don't deal with consistencies over at Department of Player Safety. They don't do that. In terms of this incident, 5 games makes sense. I didn't mind it.
I saw Rielly's going to forfeit like $200K in salary. That's an expensive cross check. And I watched the video. No, I actually agreed with a lot of they said. He traveled a distance. It was after the play, and they're going to appeal. Brad Treliving was supposed to speak to the media, and I was kind of hoping he would go nuclear on player safety and say they're so inconsistent. We've seen other cross checks, that have been less or not penalized. They did just give David Perron 6 games, and this gets 5. I don't know how they come up with the stuff, but the appeal would go to Gary Bettman, and I'm assuming he's just going to not reduce anything.
But the Perron was again a cross check to like the head area. So if you cross check a guy, it's like 5-6 games. But Trouba doesn't cross check with like the shaft of his. He like slashes like this, which is nothing. So it's like, does it depend where you hit, which part of your stick hits the guy in the head? Like, I guess there is more force on a cross check to the head than a slash to the head. But like, again, the slash to the head should have been suspended. Like, I don't know. If this is 5 games, the Trouba one is 2.
And that's my thing. Like,
yeah,
I think, if you want to suspend him, that's fine. I think, like, look, this was their explanation at the end. To summarize, this is my impression of players. This is not a hockey play. This is an intentional, forceful strike to an opponent's head, using a stick as a weapon to exact retribution well after a goal has been scored. And that was from the video, and I'm fine with that. But then when I read that, how does Ryan Hartman only get a fine for slashing Cole Perfetti in the face on a face-off? Because to me, that is also not a hockey play. That is also an intentional, forceful strike to an opponent's head. That is also using a stick as a weapon to exact retribution. So they've got stuff wrong in the past, which is like, well, Rielly Greig wasn't even bleeding. He didn't even need stitches. He was fine. Give him a 2K fine. Like, why are we going so overboard here? He was totally, just based on that. And I know we were comparing a slash to a cross check, but that's why I'm saying we should be, thankful that Ryan Hartman has such precision with a hockey stick that he only got Perfetti in the face. I mean, Perfetti could have moved suddenly and got him in the eye, took his eye out, and then what? Then what happened? So, I don't know. They're looking at, I think you got to look more at suspending the act and not the result. I think we're going to see more inconsistent stuff down the line, but I think we can all agree, and, maybe we get to we'll talk about some unwritten rules later, but, just the idea that a guy, he took a slapper in the empty net, deserves a cross check to the head. I think we can all say that's pretty silly. And, if you wanted to address it, was other ways he could have done it than cross checking in the head.
And you bring up a great point there. Like, you read through the qualifications for the suspension, and you listed off like 3 things that also qualify for the Perfetti thing and would also qualify for the Trouba slash. And it just feels like if it doesn't check every single box, then the whole thing is like, oh, then it didn't matter. Or like the results matters a lot more than the act, because like Rielly Greig didn't have a concussion. He didn't, like, the game was over, so he didn't miss any game time. But he cross-checked a guy in the side of the head. But if you high stick a guy intentionally, or if you slash a guy intentionally in the head or the lip or the side of the head, then it's fine. But that's still, like you said, like you listed off the 3 things there that still check the boxes for could be suspended. But they just, if it doesn't check the box of like, maybe he's traveling the distance or the player gets severely injured off of it, then it's just like, oh, then he'll just fine it because the result wasn't bad enough for us to care to suspend the guy. But if Rielly Greig had like a concussion, like, do you think that this suspension would be longer? Would it be 7 or 8 games if he was concussed and like on injured reserve right now?
Yeah,
I think so. I think it'd be 7. And I don't know.
Yeah, so so what he should have done is walked in and just blasted him in the face with his stick, because slashing a guy is now a 5K fine. Cross-checking to the head is a 5-game suspension. And Linus Ullmark, he got fined for his actions yesterday, high-sticking Mikey Eisman, who went into the crease and got a face full of sticks. So if you're going to use your stick as a weapon, use it to slash a guy in the face, according to NHL player safety. Don't use it to cross-check in the head. That's what we learned. Connor, appreciate you coming out to start the show. We'll come back after. Going to bring in Joe Pascucci in a sec, but let's get to Hustler here first.
Hey, gang, if you want to clean it up a little bit and get looking good, you got to head over to our friends at Modern Man Barber Shops, with 8 locations conveniently located throughout Winnipeg, including the newest locations on Pembina Highway or Plessis Road. Modern Man has you covered with a variety of grooming services, including haircuts, beard shaping, shaves, color services, and more. Make an appointment and book your look via modernmanbarber.com and follow them on Instagram at Modern Man Barber Shops. Big shout out to our friends at Manitoba Battery as well. Donnie and the gang getting set to open up later this month their second Winnipeg location on Dover Court over in the south side of Manitoba, which means folks in the south end will have an even easier time popping by Manitoba Battery. But as we've been telling you on Winnipeg Sports Talk, you really don't need to leave your home, because not only will you shop local and get the lowest prices in town, bottom line, beating the pants off the big box stores, Manitoba Battery will deliver your batteries to you anywhere inside the perimeter for free with any purchase over $60. It's just that easy. Stay tuned for grand opening details and sales specials. But in the meantime, for all your battery needs, go to manitobabattery.com or give them a call at 204-783-8787. We are, of course, counting down the days to February 29th, when we're looking forward to teaming up with our great friends and sponsors at Canadian Club and the Winnipeg Whiskey Festival to take over the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame for the Canadian Whiskey Masterclass event. And, of course, watch the Jets take on the Dallas Stars. The event is sold out, thanks to everyone that is going to come and see us. We can't wait to see you that night as well. In the meantime, for more information on the Winnipeg Whiskey Festival, check it out online. And when you're at your local Manitoba liquor marts, make sure to check out the Canadian Club display for all of Canada's favorite Canadian whiskey, Canadian Club. And remember, always enjoy responsibly. And hey, I should also give a shout out to the gang down at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. They're getting ready for a big summer of 2024. If you're looking for an incredible fly-in fishing experience where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg, Aikens Lake is the spot, featuring world-class fishing. And as great as the fishing is, the hospitality of the Terren family and the Aikens team is even better. Find out more about availability and booking for 2024 at aikenslake.com. And be sure to check them out online on X and Instagram at Aikens Lake.
All right, there's Huss. He'll be back next week celebrating the Chiefs' victory in the Super Bowl. Hey, if you're here and you made it this far, help us out. Tell YouTube we're putting out great content and they might show it to more people. Just hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button below. We'd really appreciate all of your support. And shout out to everyone here. How many people we got in here right now? Close to 400 here on a Wednesday. Thank you so much. And shout out to Derek in chat. Just wanted to say Manitoba Battery is awesome. Saved me around $1,000 yesterday. $1,000 and excellent customer service. Thank you, Derek, for the great comment. And we did have some Bombers free agency news. Ed Tate tweeting out, receiver Brendan O'Leary Orange hit the free agent market and has left the Winnipeg Blue Bombers for Hamilton. So that's another player moving on, and we'll have to see who the receivers are after, and on the depth chart after, who do they have? Dembski, Dalton Schoen, Drew Wolotarski as well, and it sounds like Rasheed Bailey won't be back. But we did have some sad news yesterday. A couple Blue Bomber legends passing away. Kenny Plain at age 88 and Jerry James at age 89. And I had to bring in Manitoba sports historian Joe Pascucci to talk about that, as well the Jets, and Jennifer Jones announcing her retirement from women's curling. Let me bring in Joe. Joe, how's it going? Thanks so much for making time to join us today on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
It's always a pleasure talking to you guys, and I know Hustler's away at a wedding in another country. But I'm sure he's still flying very high from the Chiefs' Super Bowl victory. It probably hasn't even touched the ground yet.
Yeah, he's been wearing that luchador mask since post game on Sunday. I don't think he's taken it off. Check his Twitter for his post game picture. But Joe, I wanted to reach out to you because not one but two Blue Bombers legends passed away today. Kenny Plain at age 88 and Jerry James at age 89, both in the Blue Bombers Ring of Honor at now Princess Auto Field. For someone, for people who don't know, I mean, what can you say about Kenny Plain and his greatness in the Blue Bombers with the Blue Bombers?
Well, generally regarded as, the greatest of all the Blue Bombers, came to the club following the 1957 Rose Bowl when he led Iowa to victory over Oregon State, scored a couple of touchdowns in that game, won on a spectacular run. As the quarterback, he loved to run, and he did that with the Blue Bombers as well. Scores a spectacular touchdown in that game. Scored another spectacular touchdown for the Blue Bombers in the 61 Grey Cup game in overtime. But he was drafted by the Cleveland Browns and decided that he wanted to come to Canada. Bud Grant convinced him to come to Canada to play quarterback. Because Cleveland were going to play him at defensive back and not at quarterback. So he chose Canada. Had a great career here. Obviously, 4 Grey Cups. Played in 6 Grey Cups. Won 4, and like I said, generally regarded as the greatest Blue Bomber of all time. Just a tremendous gentleman. He just commanded a room. Whenever he entered, everybody would just focus. That's Kenny Plain, and he was so gracious with all Blue Bomber fans, so gracious with the media, guys like me who, I never saw him play, but being able to talk to him, interview him about the Bomber teams of the 50s and 60s, just an outstanding individual, and quite a loss. Another member of that Bud Grant era that has passed away all too soon.
Yeah, what's amazing to me, made Winnipeg his home after spending all those seasons with the Bombers, and loved the outdoors, and him and Bud Grant, I think, bonded over that as well.
Said Bud told him the hunting was better here.
Yeah. So, and then another one on the same day, Jerry James at age 89, pretty incredible multi-sport athlete, playing in the CFL at 17 and playing with the Bombers and the Maple Leafs.
Yeah, he went to Kelvin High School and played with the Bombers at the age of 17, as you said, and was in the 1953 Grey Cup game that the Bombers played against the Hamilton Tiger Cats. He was a teammate of Bud Grant, because Bud Grant was a player for the Bombers at that point, and he was also playing, in the Toronto Maple Leafs hockey system. He played for the Toronto Marlboros in the early 50s. I believe won a Memorial Cup with them, and in '59, when the Bombers won the Grey Cup in the 1960 Stanley Cup playoffs, he played for the Maple Leafs. So he's the only, player or athlete to have played in both a Grey Cup and Stanley Cup finals in the same season. So quite an athlete, quite a gentleman, inducted into the Canadian Football Hall of Fame. And his dad was a Winnipeg football legend, played on the Blue Bombers in 1935 when they won the Grey Cup as the Winnipegs. And his name was Eddie James Dynamite. And that's why Jerry James was called Kid Dynamite.
Yeah, and Joe, you tweeted some great videos from that era on your account, I guess X, formerly known as Twitter. That's what I jokingly call it, Pascucci 015. But I have to note, he held the record for Canadian single season touchdowns with 18 until 2000, when Mike Pringle broke it. Amazing that a record like that could be held for so long. 2 legends passing away yesterday, and another legend announcing her retirement from women's curling, Jennifer Jones, yesterday. I mean, what an incredible career with women's curling. I mean, where would you just rank her in terms of the greatest Manitoba athletes?
I think we did a discussion a few years ago on this program, didn't we? And we had who was on the Mount Rushmore, and I think I had Jennifer Jones. She was one of my 4. Of Manitoba sporting legends. And she is obviously the greatest women's curler in Manitoba history. Sandra Schmerler was so good, and She was taken away from all of us way too soon. And I think if Sandra had lived longer, she probably would have won a few more Scotties championships and world championships. But Jennifer Jones, what can you say about her career and the teams? She changed women's curling because of her style of being aggressive. Like, you watch some of the Scotties and from years past, and when you watch the women's games, they would always just play hit for the first two ends and they would blank. Jennifer Jones would go right after opposing teams right in the first end. Not that, I think her strategy, she played the game like they did on the men's side where they were more aggressive. And, sometimes that cost her, but, I think we all appreciated her as curling fans that, that she would play that kind of aggressive style. She could obviously, hit, right? But it wasn't just to take out rocks. She could make those doubles. And of course we saw that great in-off that she made to beat Ontario's Jen Hanna in the 2005 Scotties, her first Scotties victory. And that was, as Mike Harris said on the broadcast, the greatest shot to ever win a championship, probably in curling history.
Yeah, that shot is still getting retweeted around by people who don't even follow curling. Just the physics of and all the angles involved in that incredible shot. And yeah, gold in 2014 Winter Olympics, 2 World Championship golds, and 4 Scotties golds for Jennifer Jones. Right. One thing you've been doing in Toronto, Joe, I wanted to ask you. You were at the first PWHL game. How is the PWHL being received there in Toronto early on in the inaugural
very
season?
Well. Yeah, very well. They're playing in the Mattamy Athletic Center, which is basically the old Maple Leaf Gardens. So they're basically playing at the top level at the Gardens. Underneath there's a grocery store where Maple Leaf Gardens is. And so the capacity is about 2,500. So they decided to go small for this first year. But all the games are sold out. Friday night, they're playing Montreal, and they're going to play that game at Scotiabank Arena, and they've sold out. It's I think 16,000 fans are going to be there. And I assist on the telecast. I'm the statistician helping out the play-by-play and color announcers, feeding them information as the game is going on that they can sometimes use in their broadcast and in between periods when they discuss the game. But very, very entertaining. I'm surprised that, maybe I shouldn't have been, but I'm surprised. I was surprised by the quality of the entertainment, the speed of the game, the hitting. He got, the truculence, as Brian Burke would say that, he likes in hockey. And you see that certainly with between some of the players. And it's very entertaining. I think it would do very well in Winnipeg. But I just don't know how much, how the talent pool is right now in women's hockey. If you expand from the 6 teams that they have now, are you diluting the product? Because the product right now, as it stands, is very, very good.
Yeah, they're going with the 6 teams right now. I think they're doing this right. Just a slow rollout. Don't want to get too aggressive. So we've seen huge crowds in Minnesota and other cities as well. Ottawa. Yeah. So big reception. We hope this continues.
I think this would be a good opera. I think it would do very well in Winnipeg to have a team there somewhere down the road. A little expensive because of the location of Winnipeg and all the travel, but I think there's certainly enough hockey fans, that would come out to watch the games.
Yeah, they have all the East teams: Montreal, New York, Ottawa, Toronto, Boston, and then they have Minnesota, kind of in the middle. But there have been maybe, I think, the biggest attendance of it, the Selenote Xcel Energy Center. But moving on from, we're jumping everywhere here today, Joe. We go from
a lot to talk about, right?
Yeah, we'll go back to current day Bombers. It is CFL free agency. You can't bring everyone back. Kyle Walters. saying that 18 of 24 of the Grey Cup stars are back, but I think the biggest ones bring back Brady Oliveira and also Dalton Jones. Still have to be very excited for the upcoming season if you're a fan of the Blue Bombers.
Oh, definitely. And don't forget Chris Strevler.
Oh, Chris Strevler come back as well. How can we forget?
I think that, Strev should, be on the sidelines with that fur coat until they bring him in, to do the short yard. Or maybe even auction off the fur coat for charity.
Yeah.
As you said, you can't bring everybody back, and you can't blame players for wanting to, be paid, all that they can get, especially in the Canadian Football League where, the money is not the same as in the NFL. But, you can make a decent living, and the Bombers, especially with their playoff success and the bonuses, that certainly helps when it comes to salary. But, there's certain players you can't replace, and they would not have been able to replace a Brady Oliveira or a Dalton Schoen. They lost, two pretty good backup quarterbacks, but, they needed their opportunity. But Chris Strevler is a great replacement for that. Let's see if his passing has improved a little bit in the years that he's been down in the NFL. But there's no reason to believe or not to believe that the Bombers, have another good chance of getting to the Grey Cup again this season, though it's going to be in BC. But of course, the following year is the big one when, the Grey Cup game is in Winnipeg, and you want the Bombers to be in that one for sure. So hopefully Kyle Walters and Michael Shea can, keep this team as strong as they have these past 4 or 5 years. And we've got, of the Blue Bombers going to the Grey Cup for 6 straight seasons and getting everybody in Canada upset and, and cheering against the Bombers because they're bored of the Bombers always being in the Grey Cup, which was what happened in the early 90s when the Bombers were always going to the Grey Cup.
Yeah, still got to pinch myself sometimes because I, grew up with the Bombers during that 30-year drought. And, I'd be like, I look at Calgary and be like, why can't the Bombers be more like Calgary? They're going to the Grey Cup like every year. Now, they weren't winning every time, but just to have that sustained success. And this has been quite the run for the Bombers. Yeah. And, there's been a lot of turnover, and it seems like it's still going to go, but you're not in the heart of the window here. It's kind of players are moving on, and the quarterback's getting older, so we'll have to see how it goes here the next couple of years.
Yeah, I'll give a lot of credit also as well to Wade Miller, right? And for the organization that he's put together, because in the past, and we've had some bad people running the football side of things. Joe Mack, not to mention names, but Joe Mack, right? So I think that in the and some of the coaches that were hired, it seems the Bombers didn't wanted to participate but not compete. Tried to be more frugal instead of going out and spending money to win. And I think that Wade has changed all that. They're not skimping, right? They're not skimping to try and put, fans in the stands or victories on the field. So you've got to appreciate all that they've done. And I think that the football club going forward, is on the best footing it's ever been since, you even go back to the Bud Grant era. There were some down years during Cal Murphy's era too, but that was because of finances as the team was losing lots of money. I think fortunately under Wade, the team has become very profitable.
Yeah, they do put out that annual report every year. They seem to be doing very well. The stadium has been full, number of sellouts, and people are already looking forward to the summer, to get out there. It's a great experience there at Princess Auto Field. We do have the Jets back in action after a couple of days off. We've had that break, the All-Star break, and then we had they played Saturday, but a couple days in between, they're playing San Jose Sharks here on Valentine's Day. I got asked, coming out of the break, you lose to Pittsburgh, you don't score, you score a goal against the Flyers, you start having flashbacks to the second half slide from last year, Joe, or how were you feeling going to that Saturday game?
Well, I don't see flashbacks yet. Sure, the record may indicate there's a flashback, but not their play, right? It's not their play. They're except for a period or two, that second period against Pittsburgh. But it's their play hasn't been as bad as it was, during that stretch last year when they were losing games, when there seemed to be no effort, no pushback, as Rick Bowness would say, no compete. So I just think that this Jets team hasn't looked the same since coming back from that California trip with their fathers, their mentors. They called that trip. They just haven't looked the same offensively. Defensively, they've looked pretty good at times. I mean, the game against Toronto, in Toronto, just that 2-0 breakaway between Morgan Barron and with Adam Lowry. And Morgan Barron is not even looking to shoot, right? He's looking to make a pass. He's telling Samsonov, I'm passing. So I think the Jets will get out of their scoring woes. They've got too many good players who can put the puck into the net. I've liked what I've seen from Sean Monahan. I just think that right now he's playing with players with Perfetti and with Velarde that may be injured. The Jets are never going to tell us 100%, but obviously it seems from afar that those two players are not completely healthy, and they show flashes of being a really good line. Nikolai Ehlers, obviously he's pushing sort of the pace right now with this hockey team, but he has his moments too. When Nikolai Ehlers is playing well, when he goes north-south, when he starts making those passes into the middle of the ice, then he's having an off night. And if we could ever get that completely out of his game, Nikolai Ehlers could be one of the top players in the NHL. But he still has those moments where he loves to make those blind passes into the middle of the ice, and sometimes he just doesn't get away with it.
Yeah, hey, I'll agree with everything that you said there. And Velarde coming off a scoring slump here. He's at 5 straight without a point. And he was banged up before the break, and Cole Perfetti's now 7 without a point. And they're going to need that secondary scoring to step up, because you looked at the last couple games since the break, they didn't score the first game. They scored 1 in the second game against the Flyers. They scored 2 in the third game. Maybe they'll score 3 tonight. They got a good opponent in the San Jose Sharks.
Yeah, but isn't the San Jose Sharks goalie one of those that frustrates the Jets, or the Jets make them look really good, like they have in the first 2 times they played them?
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, Mackenzie Blackwood. I haven't seen who's. I'm assuming he's going to start tonight. But he's been stoning, and it wasn't even him last year. It was James Reimer. I remember shutting the door on the Jets last year. So they're getting the chances. You hope they go in, and maybe they'll turn it around. But we're looking forward to the second half with the Jets as they go towards the playoffs. So Joe,
one more quick.
Sure, go ahead.
Foreshadowing. Okay, Valentine's Day in 1993, the Jets are playing the San Jose Sharks. San Jose Sharks had tied the NHL record with 17 straight losses. They hadn't won in, I think, 21 games. Guess what happened, Remis?
No.
Yes, they won. They beat the Jets 3-2. A Jets team with Solani, Jamnov, and Tkachuk.
Oh my! I don't have to.
And they won 3-2. So hopefully that doesn't happen tonight, but that did happen on this day in 1993.
Joe,
I'm going to put a tweet out on that shortly.
Sure, yeah. Pascucci 015. I love how you have all the old videos and stuff. You got quite the archive there. So I'm so appreciative of you taking the time to join me today here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Hopefully we can do it again soon.
Hopefully. Looking forward to it.
There he is, Joe Pascucci 015 on Twitter /X, and he did post a video of that game he was talking about. Feb 14 was it 1993 Jets and Sharks, and he posted that game actually, and I think I was at that game. It was a Sunday afternoon. Kelly Kissio scored 2 goals, and I remember I was not a fan of Kelly Kissio after that, and every time I ripped Score 91 packs. I would curse his name because he ruined my Sunday afternoon at Winnipeg Arena. More Jets talk coming up. Super pumped to bring on Murat of The Athletic. So much to get to, so stick around for that one.
We are looking forward to next season. And of course, all of our Winnipeg Blue Bomber reports here on Winnipeg Sports Talk are brought to you by Princess Auto, proud sponsors of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And now welcoming Bomber fans to Princess Auto Stadium for next season's Winnipeg Blue Bomber year. Of course, a new 10-year deal announced earlier this year. A great local success story of a Winnipeg company getting behind the local team in the way that they are. Of course, Princess Auto, in addition to being great sponsors of all of our sports teams here in the Peg, and of course, Winnipeg Sports Talk, Princess Auto is also the place where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. Pop by and visit them in store on either Panet Road or Portage Avenue West at their 2 Winnipeg locations, or you can shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. Have to give a shout out to the gang at Wallace & Wallace, Winnipeg's fencing and overhead door specialists since 1946. As the snow melts and we get into spring, you'll see their fences and trucks all over the city. But you might not know they're also the Clopay dealer in Manitoba and have the largest selection of overhead garage doors for your home in town. But right now, as it is cold in the middle of the winter, this is the time that stresses your overhead garage door the most. And the right time to prevent downtime this winter is now. Give Wallace & Wallace a call to book your inspection and maintenance service call today. For residential and commercial overhead door sales and service, there's only one name or two you need to know, and that is Wallace & Wallace. And hey, fellas, if you're looking into your closet and realize that it might be time to step up your menswear game, might I suggest a quick trip to take care of that down to see the gang at F Apparel at 190 Smith Street, Winnipeg and Manitoba's #1 spot for menswear at great prices. Custom suits beginning at $400, along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and an incredible selection of menswear accessories. Great deals for 2024 high school grads. And if you're in a wedding party or getting married this year, make sure you talk to the gang down at F Apparel about a 15% discount when the entire wedding party gets their suits at F Apparel. They're again down at 190 Smith Street downtown. Check them out online and find out more or make an appointment at F. That's EPHapparel.com.
There's us. As I said, he'll be back next week. I'm in the host chair here. So pumped to bring in right now Murat of The Athletic. Murat, how's it going? Welcome back. What's going on?
Great to be here. Nice to see you finally get to take this thing over, do it the way that you want, run the ship the way you want to run it.
It's tough, man. It's tough, but hey, when when you own the company, they let you do pretty much whatever you want. So here I am. Shout out to the 400 people or so still in chat. Murat, we're going to get to some Jets discussion here, and they're just coming off this 5-game losing streak. And I see you're writing in The Athletic 5 reasons why they're in this streak, and is the reason for concern that maybe we're kind of dipping into last year's second half.
Yeah, my take is that the floor for the Jets, and we saw them come back and sort of put things to an end against Pittsburgh on Saturday. But I think the floor is higher than it's been in recent seasons for Winnipeg. I think that's a testament to mostly the defensive structure more than anything. The Jets' defense has been one of the best defenses this year. The chance against numbers, very, very good. Then you factor in the goaltending, and all of a sudden, they've let in the fewest goals and the fewest goals at 5-on-5 in the NHL. It's not even close in some respects. So that's the foundation of the team. When their offense goes to die, it just stops. That's a problem, and obviously you can't win games that way. You can't win games 0-0. They tried against Toronto and lost 1-0 in that overtime. And that would be a concern. The power play is an ongoing concern. The fact that their top scorers are generating chances and not scoring, that's the sort of thing that I'm kind of more willing to bet, well, that's going to come around. And then you look and you see them, they take things over a little bit on Saturday.
Yeah, one thing you mentioned in your 5 reasons and you just talked about is the power play. And Rick Bowness has been asked, I think over the last week, what's going on there? What's going on with the power play? And his response is, it will get better. I mean, we're halfway through the year. Should we do reason to believe that it is going to get better? I don't know if you were at practice yesterday. Mike McIntyre was here. He said he was at practice, and they can't even score in practice on the power play. So I don't know if you have a take on the direction of what's going. I mean, you mentioned on here that when they brought in Monahan, he's on power play 1, but you're like, well, where they're playing him isn't really going to change much. And now they haven't had the opportunities lately, but you wanted to touch on the state of the power play as we go forward here.
It'd be great to see them get a run of opportunities so that we could actually see what they're, what tweaks they've made with Monahan in the bumper position in the middle. By the way, for the record, Monahan's first goal in a Winnipeg Jets uniform was yesterday on the power play in practice. So I got to give him credit for that. It wasn't like they were not scoring. And that particular play was the result of a good interchange. You had Scheifele and Velarde trading spots from the half wall and behind the net. There was an interchange and a pass from down low below the goal line to Monahan in the slot, and he went top shelf on that. So that's the sort of thing you'd like to see translate to real life, which I mean game action. We're at a point a year and a half into this regime where their power play really hasn't been very good at any point that I can recall, and certainly not on the aggregate. It's worse now than it was in the previous regime, and it's certainly worse than when the Jets were, contending like this in 2017, 18, and in that era. So for me, I'm going to need to see some real quality for a real extended stretch before I fully believe in it. That's that. But upon watching it in practice yesterday, I'm a little bit more encouraged by Monahan's ability to help things. And when he's in the middle of the ice, he's not responsible for the entry. He's not going to be, not at his speed. He is responsible for the faceoff. That's a small part, but it's not an enormous part because the entry and then the setup has to come after that, or entry if you lose the draw, pardon me. But it's a small piece of the overall power play. And what's happened when the Jets have been set up for most of the year has been so stagnant, and guys are sort of married to their spots, and you got Scheifele with his sort of parked on the half wall, and you don't see the kind of movement that you see from the elite teams. I started watching Winnipeg Jets power play highlights from a couple of years ago. The Jets used to move more than they do now, even in a 1-3-1. So that's a concern, and I don't think the bumper player can fix that. But yesterday, and this is why I'm bringing Monahan into this, yesterday I saw a couple of examples of him offering help to Scheifele when he was sort of pinned to the wall, and a couple of different release points where he's moving kind of high, almost underneath the defenseman. He's moving a little bit low, and his sort of activity in creating options to get the puck into the middle of the ice, I will say that is a strength, and I do know that that's something Monahan's ex-teammates say that he's been great at over his career. So all to say, I think he helps a little, but I'm going to need to see a whole lot of success before I start believing in it altogether.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it goes. Good opportunity tonight here against San Jose. And you mentioned the stagnant. I joked on this show, it reminded me of rod hockey, where you can kind of just stick to your rod and you look at, we're going to get a good look at Vancouver on Saturday. I love the way Elias Paterson and JT Miller, Quinn Hughes, how those guys move around up top. But that's Saturday. We're looking forward to tonight against San Jose. We've got the line combinations sticking with this top line of Ehlers, Scheifele, Connor. The second line, Perfetti, Monahan, Velarde. What do you make here of this switch to put Ehlers on the top line? Because after the trade, it was like, well, we got to get Perfetti with Monahan and Ehlers. That's our line too. That's secondary scoring. Well, 2 games in, you score 1 goal in 2 games. Like, oh, moving up Ehlers back to the top line. So what have you made about the lines post-switch or post-break and now with the switch here?
Yeah, I think the fact of it is that Connor, Scheifele, and Velarde weren't going. That trio wasn't really crushing it. And in Jets lore, we've seen very recently what Ehlers can do on the top line. Admittedly, it was him, Scheifele, and Vilardi, so I'm not necessarily putting it all on Vilardi in this. But when Ehlers was on the top line, it hummed. It dominated. It outscored opposition 15-4. Ehlers was among the point-scoring leaders during that stretch at 5-on-5 in the NHL. And all of the underlying numbers supported a real quality stretch as well. So it's a good opportunity for the Jets to get him back into a top line capacity. I think Scheifele is a known entity. He drives offense. He genuinely does. Kyle Connor, when things are going well for him, he's scoring. And ideally, you'd like to see a bit more of that now, actually. It's been a while since he was absolutely torrid and towards the Rocket Richard leaderboard and all of that sort of stuff. I think it's been good. I think it's been worth looking at more. I think that's all well and fine. You'd like to see that continue. Certainly, Ehlers' impact has been well noted. And then on that second line, I'm trying to stay patient, and I will stay patient. And I really believe you need to see things for a stretch of games, especially when somebody's brand new to the team. One thing I'll say is Sean Monahan has been excellent on the forecheck. Just all of the times where, despite his slow speed, he's getting a stick on a breakout pass, or he's getting a stick on like an attempted rim pass, or he's knocking things down. That was his fingerprints were all over Saturday, actually, in terms of creating offensive zone time for Winnipeg's second line, even if they weren't creating an awful lot with it in the end.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it goes tonight. Again, Jets implied team total, I've mentioned it, it's like close to 4. So a good matchup against the Sharks. You mentioned the top lines. How about the bottom lines? They did make a transaction this week, activating David Gustafsson. Went down to the Moose for the conditioning stint. But I mean, how does he, even when he's healthy, where does he factor in? Niederreiter, Lowry, Appleton. They've been stapled together, and then Barron, Nemestikov, IFL. That's a pretty solid line. So is Gus just biding time till he comes back with Rasmus Kupari into the press box?
Essentially, I think so. Yeah, he's not going to unseat any of the existing 12 forwards from their roster spot. And, I think he might be in tough to unseat Kupari from being the most likely guy in if everybody stays healthy as well. But it is important for him to get into some playing action. And the conditioning stint can be up to 2 weeks. It'll get him some game action for the Moose. It will be a much bigger help to him than staying in the press box now that he's 100% healthy. So that's good. And we've seen enough Jets hockey, and I mean, knock on wood if you're a superstitious fan, but, so many roster changes happen. Like, we think that this is going to be one way, then somebody gets hurt, and we've seen it up front a whole bunch of times this year. So, he's going to need to stay ready in case his name does get called. Same with Kupari, too. But I think that the 12 players that Winnipeg's using right now, that's the ticket. That's who Bonus is going to be counting on if he has access to everybody.
It was kind of rare during that stretch there where they had the same lines. Like, it was like, what's the lines? Well, it's the same thing. They hadn't changed it. And then, you had the Scheifele injury and the Vilardi injury, but now they seem to be back healthy. And you talked about the forwards on the defense, third game of Dylan's suspension. Logan Stanley stepping in. What did you make of Logan Stanley in that role? And again, is he, he's just been sitting, waiting for his turn. So I would think Dylan just slides right back in the lineup when he's back.
Yeah, I don't think Brendan Dillon's job is at risk, despite what some of Stanley's biggest fans suggested to me on the internet this week. So yeah, Logan Stanley, I thought his game was fine. And it's forever funny to me, just the degree to which he is a lightning rod for fan opinions. People who believe in him and see his size and see the things that he does well, when he's activating in the offensive zone, and I get the aths and they're talking about Zdeno Chara still after all these years. That name comes up. And if he makes a mistake, and he did make a giveaway to Jansen Harkins for a really dangerous chance against first shift of Saturday's game, Colin White got a one-timer from the slot completely free. Well, then fans are saying, well, he shouldn't even be in the league. He should be in the ECHL. And you see all of that. And I'm like, I don't know if either of those things are true. And so I spent Super Bowl Sunday afternoon rewatching every single one of his shifts from that Saturday game to just try to be like, okay, let's get the noise out of here. What do I actually think about this player? And to be honest, I think fine is a great way to describe it. Third pairing, their numbers were great. Absolutely, they were. He and Nate Schmidt played together. he had 7 + 7 + 5 is what? 19 shifts on the game, 18 at even strength. Only twice was he on against Crosby or Malkin for an extended period of time. So 16 of 18 shifts were against third or fourth lines. That's coaching. That's coaching being smart about what its third pair's job should be. So let's not act like their good analytics is the fact that they were a top pair on that night. That was some very sheltered minutes. The 2 shifts that he did have against those lines, I mean, he and Schmidt and the fourth line got scored on by Crosby's line. And then there was the penalty he took against Malkin. So no, he's not ready for that top 4 type of minutes, but that's not what he's being asked to do. At the same time, if you zoom into other aspects of his game, most of his breakout passes were good. His willingness to jump into the play in the offensive zone was good. So it adds up, I think, to fine, and his numbers were quality from a third pairing perspective. But also, we got to remember that he's a person and that there would be rust. And if it was Ville Heinola in that same spot, there would be rust. And we would try to have some grace for that, the fact that the guys hadn't played in so long. And I talked to Stanley about that very thing yesterday at practice. And he's like, yeah, honestly, I do feel a little bit rusty, especially that first game against Philadelphia. Things felt pretty quick out there. But by Saturday, I thought I got my feet going and things are going better from there. So I think he's very realistic about where he's at. And that's a quality 7th or 8th guy, or at least in my opinion, that can come in and help you on that third pairing if the third pairing is sheltered. And I think that's fine. He doesn't need to be a god or a devil. He's just a guy who's like trying to make a life for himself.
Yeah, and sticking with the defense, we spent so much time last year talking about Scheifele and Hellebuyck and their pending UFA status and what are the Jets going to do. But the Jets have 2 guys who are UFAs at the end of this season who play big roles on the defense, and Dylan DeMello, top pair with Morrissey, and Brendan Dillon as well, who, the most physical player that they have. They don't, what's the plan here? Do you think to re-sign these guys, or do they have an internal replacement for them? How do you see this one shaking out? I talked about it yesterday with Mike. I was curious to get your thoughts, but, Mike also noted Brendan Dillon switching agents, which I don't think there's anything really to read into there, but it was maybe something that was just interesting heading into the season, because we haven't really, we're so wrapped up in the in-season, and we haven't really looked ahead to what might happen with the defense on the offseason, because the rest of the team is basically under contract except for Monahan and then Brossoit and a couple RFAs.
Yeah, it's interesting just how much of the same roster could be brought back next year. You don't always get that. And like you said, there's been some times of year like this where we're wondering, is that half the team going to be blown up? And certainly that's not what happened. On the agency switch for Brendan Dillon, I can speak to that a little bit because I spoke to Brendan Dillon's new agent, Alain Roy, and it was a really thoughtful and great conversation. And I think that what they're doing is just getting their ducks in a row. They recognize Winnipeg is a great team, has a chance to make a playoff run. There's a great thing going on in that dressing room. And that if you're Kevin Cheveldayoff right now, your first priority today is assess and get ready for that trade deadline. There's going to be college free agents and things like that have a bit of a ticking clock and a timeline to that. So they're kind of expecting that from here, at least, they're expecting that contract talks will pick up in earnest kind of once the season is done more than anything. So they're checking in, they're having conversations, but those types of decisions, I think, will be an off-season thing. Brendan Dillon's certainly open to re-signing in Winnipeg. That top 4 job is there for him, I think, if he wants it. But just in case the Jets don't go that way, they are getting their ducks in a row. And I think switching agencies was part of just taking a different lens towards that approach, just in case the fit doesn't end up being with Winnipeg. So I think that is noteworthy. And I wrote about that at The Athletic last week as well. With Dylan DeMello, I haven't talked to anybody on that side recently, but the sense I've always had is there's some optimism that he's around for the long haul as well. But we'll see. Again, like I say, a lot of those priorities will sort themselves out kind of between now and the end of the season, depending on what happens at the trade deadline, depending on how far they go in the playoffs and all that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah, it seems like there has been a fit, since he got traded here, and he was a free agent and then went into the offseason. And did he resign? I forget if he re-signed in the offseason or near the end of the
Yeah,
season.
I can't remember the timing of year, but certainly he was a free agent and signed with Winnipeg like as a free agent, I thought, if I remember. Now I'm doubting it.
And now I'm doubting it. Yeah, I don't recall. So it says, yeah, I don't remember. So I could be wrong. But anyways, going from the Jets, Murat, you had this really interesting article in The Athletic, and I recommend everyone check it out and subscribe. It's all about goaltending, how it's getting harder. Teams are scoring more. What did you learn when looking into this article? It seemed to take a considerable amount of time because you had that conversation with Brossoit a while ago where he forgot to hit record, and then he said, "It's okay, we're all human."
Yeah. Let's start by dunking on me and my rookie move of
Hey, I've done it too, man. Everyone's got a story, but you just need to do it one time, and then you don't do it again. Because I did it once to Huss on a pre-taped interview, and I didn't hit record or something, and now we joke every time. You're recording, aren't you? So I didn't mean to make it a dunk there.
No. I agree with you. It's the sort of thing that I feel like will never happen again because the embarrassment of hands. So save percentage has dropped every year from I think it's 2013-14, that season, to now, league-wide. And there have been dips like that in the past, but you could explain them away with, well, hey, there were way more power plays that season. That's not it in this case. At 5-on-5, save percentage has dropped every single year and continues to drop right now. So, instead of going to the shooters and being like, hey, why are you guys so good? Myself and then my teammate Fluto Shinzawa, who writes out of Boston, we went and talked to some of the best goaltenders on the planet. And we said, like, hey, guys, like, why is this happening? What has changed? And they were amazing. Like, I talked to Connor Hellebuyck at length. I talked to Laurent Brossoit at length. Forgot to hit record. He's like, hey, man, you know what? We're human. We'll get back at you. And first class response on him. We talked about a week or two after that. And he went right back into it. And he had fresh ideas. He said, like, you know what? I've actually been thinking about this. And then just a couple of days ago, before publishing, it was after the All-Star break. I was in the Jets dressing room, and Brossoit approaches me, and he said, yeah, you know what? Connor Hellebuyck and I have been talking about this, and we've got more thoughts for you. So it's an interesting thing. Why would shooters be sort of winning that battle? Why would more shots, a higher percentage of shots, be going in now than kind of at any time in the Cap era, except for 05-06 when it was all about those power plays? And we get into it, and like changes in roster construction. When did that happen? And Brossoit tells a story about that. Who's using analytics? How? And you talk about the Royal Road and ClearSight Analytics and that sort of thing. The changes in talent, the systems, we get coaching talking about it as well. I was really excited about this piece, and I think it came off well. Like I really do hope the folks read it, because the goalies who sort of spoke to the trends and the way the game is changing, I thought they were phenomenal and kind as well, as noted.
Yeah, you mentioned analytics, talent, chaos, and equipment. Why playing goal in the NHL has never been harder. And nice to hear, Brossoit and Hellebuyck getting their thoughts together and helping out. It's something I would recommend everyone checking out here. And as we move on, just for tonight, I mean, what are you looking to see from the Jets here tonight against San Jose, which has given them a bit of trouble this year?
Yeah, and even I remember I was on the trip at the end of last season where they were in San Jose and they were all over him and just didn't score. And then there were some quotes afterwards where, like, Mark Scheifele said one thing, Rick Bowness said another. And I was thinking, like, are these guys on the same page about how you're supposed to score goals in this league? It was a really heated moment for a second there. And then they've given them trouble this year. Something about San Jose. And it's certainly not how deep they are or what have you. I mean, I don't want to tear into one of the league's bottom teams, but that is a fact. They're among the league's bottom teams. I'm looking for Winnipeg to play Winnipeg Jets hockey, which has become a cliche. I'm looking for them to defend the middle of the ice well and then stretch the ice and go on the attack. And when Winnipeg goes on the attack, instead of getting those 4 or 5 grade A chances that Rick Bowness references that they got right off the hop against San Jose the last time they played, and they burned those chances. They just need to bury. Like, on a team with this much quality, you have to believe that they're going to continue to create quality chances. And when they do, they're going to score their goals. And Rima, I'm going to give you, like, heading into that Pittsburgh game, if you looked at the 10 games before that Pittsburgh game on Saturday that Winnipeg finally won, the Jets' shooting percentage was second worst in the league. And that's absolutely wrong for the group of talent that Winnipeg has. They've traditionally, like, even if you zoom out and give it a realistic sample, they're towards the top of the middle of the pack. They're a completely decent shooting team, sometimes better than that. And for them to run second worst for an extended period of time, and then you see them like passing off on 2-on-1s and 3-on-1s and all that sort of stuff. After a while, it really does look like it gets in their head. So I'm looking to have them create chances, bury them, and sort of get that good feeling back.
It's kind of funny how you mentioned the Jets finishing lately just hasn't been there. I mean, it's kind of funny. They had that game against the Flyers, and like John Tortorella was mad because they kind of sat back and allowed all the chances, and meanwhile the Jets couldn't bury them. I almost like, they didn't seem. First, we were like, well, the Jets didn't play that well. But John Tortorella was all mad the Flyers didn't play well. It was kind of strange how both sides left that one not feeling great about their game. But looking ahead to Saturday, I mean, Vancouver is a team that's been on the opposite end, that all seems like all their shots are going in. Niels Höglander having a career year after being a healthy scratch. I don't know what you make of the Jets. Like, are they a for real contender here for the Cup in Vancouver, especially now they brought in Elias Lindholm?
I thought that Elias Lindholm acquisition was smart because I think of the Canucks as an above-average team, as a good team who is just on absolute fire. And everything they touch turns to goals. And the shooting percentages on that team are sky high and have been sky high for most of the year. So if you're waiting for that to come down to earth, and instead of them being like the best team in the league, just be one of the good ones, well, they went out and upgraded one of the areas where that it made sense for them to do. And that's a quality two-way forward in Lindholm. It's been a while since he was outright dominant, but he is good and he is quality and can help at both ends of the rink. So I thought that was smart on their part. I'd be really curious to see just how much Winnipeg gets caught into a bit of a track meet, because I know the Canucks are one of the most successful teams off the rush. They create a lot of rush chances, and they have a sky-high shooting percentage, even compared to other rush teams. So there's been just Vancouver sounds like they have the statistical profile of one of the most exciting teams to watch, but one that I'm not sure if is worthy of the best team or one of the best teams in the league category.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how these two teams match up. Vancouver, I mentioned earlier in this conversation, I think their power play very exciting with Quinn Hughes, excellent skater, Elias Paterson as well, JT Miller. I think he's top 10 in scoring. So we're kind of looking ahead there, and more looking ahead to the trade deadline. So you still see the Winnipeg Jets adding a depth defenseman here as we move towards March 8th?
That's kind of my thought. Yeah. It changes, and it's changed a couple of times as I've written. Defense would be the priority for sure, and I've basically what it comes down to this is this: if Logan Stanley and Ville Heinola are the guys you're counting on to be first in to play massive playoff minutes for you in case of emergency break glass, like that scenario, I think Winnipeg wants to be better insulated. Not necessarily in outright quality, because those guys can do some things, and Heinola can do some things that might not be replaced on the roster, but in experience, so that in any given moment you're not dealing with that level of rust like Stanley admitted to, or Heinola will probably have, or you're getting the reports that he's not been skating as well at the Moose level as he's recovered from injury as he did at the beginning of the season. I think Winnipeg's going to want to have a veteran who's played some games and who's ideally, been in playoff situations before. Because it's one of those things that I think a lot of people don't talk about, but the players themselves do. It's hard to go from not playing to suddenly dressing and playing at game speed. Practice isn't nearly the same thing. And credit to Cal Capobianco for being pretty good at that last season. But I think even in his case, they might be looking for just a step above that before things are all said and done, if they can get it done.
We're all looking forward to the trade deadline. The Jets, Kevin Cheveldayoff usually makes a couple moves to bolster the Jets. They're certainly in position. Is there a team around them in the standings that you've got your eye on here, Murat, as we wind down this conversation?
Like in terms of trades, like?
Yeah, someone who, I guess like Dallas, Colorado would probably be the two.
Yeah, I mean, I read Pierre Lebrun not too long ago sort of talking about a Western Conference arms race possibility, where certainly the Jets went out and got Monahan, which was their response to Lindholm going to Vancouver. And now, okay, how are Dallas, Colorado, et cetera, going to treat things? Like Winnipeg, obviously not the first place team in the league anymore, not even the first place team in their division. They're third. Certainly they've got games in hand, and their points percentage is second to Dallas, and their points percentage is better than Colorado. But it is very real that they're surrounded by quality teams. There's no argument, and I don't think there ever was, that Winnipeg had distanced themselves from teams like that. And as the stretch picks up, like any little move, I think is going to go under a tremendous amount of scrutiny. I think for Winnipeg, the single most important thing is stay in that top 2 or 3 in the division. Don't make yourself a wild card team and have to play one of the best teams. We saw what happened when they fell off the map in 2019. St. Louis cruised through them. We saw what happened last year. Vegas cruised through them on the way to Stanley Cups. Give themselves a chance. And I think that they're going to need to through Monahan most likely, but through their own quality so far, they need to cement themselves as contenders with a more impressive stretch run than the last 2 weeks or so that we've seen out of them.
Yeah, just wrapping up here. So the Jets, there was some concern meter getting high last week. Are we in another second half slump? I guess you started off by saying, the floor a lot higher. So you're confident that there's no deja vu happening here.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think the floor on the team is way higher than last year. I got people in my inbox saying, like, if Winnipeg doesn't destroy San Jose, everything's a joke. This team is a joke. And I'm like, pump the brakes on that just a little bit. If you look at the way they protect the middle of the ice, they've done it so much better this year than last year. You can do that by eye. You can do that by analytic. There is quality 5-on-5 hockey being played. The offense, that's a concern at 5-on-5. I think it'll be average again, which is good when your defense is that good and you've got Connor Hellebuyck. That power play is troublesome, but that, again, these are on the edges. The most important parts, that 5-on-5 game, Winnipeg's good at it. And even their worst games, they haven't been that bad at it. I really believe that they've bottomed out and they're on their way to a quality 5-on-5 stretch. The rest, can they fix? Can they turn it into a proper contending playoff push? That's on them. We'll see what they can do.
Yeah, it's going to be something to watch here as we move forward, and I can't wait to tonight's game, 6:30 puck drop, Canada Life Center. And I want to wish you good luck as we go, Murat. Big hockey tournament this weekend. Haven't skated at all this winter, what you're tweeted out. Haven't played competitively since you're 16, so like 5 years ago. So you're writing purely for fun, and you're gonna be so bad. So I really enjoyed that tweet, and someone followed up with a picture of you playing Bantam. You want me to pull it up here?
Bring it up. I love it. It's probably my peak as a hockey player, so we may as well celebrate what we've got.
It says you're on the Eastman Bantam All-Stars in this picture. All-Star match.
I mean, they were pretty generous in that. And it was sweet, too. Actually, in the All-Star game, I was on, the third or fourth line of this group. I was not amongst the best players of the guys. But one of my line changes happened to be, I think I came on right after a power play had ended. The puck squirted into the neutral zone, and I got a breakaway for free, and I scored on it. So, my stat line from the All-Star game looks way better, and there are other good bounces, but it looks way better than I was as a player, and I hold on to that very, very closely and dear to my heart. And I'll tell you that now, and the next week I'll tell you that I was puking over the boards at the For Fun tournament this Saturday.
That's great. Well, I enjoyed that. I know some people here who are fans saw that as well, and I'll bring it up. You're the one here on the far left here, top left. That is you, correct?
That's me. Yeah, that's the mushroom cut. And guy beside me is named Jeff Skinner, so I like to brag to people that I played with him. Quite a goal scorer. But yeah, that's like one broken nose and a mushroom cut ago.
Oh my god! And then I see some people in chat saying, "Whoa, that's what you look like without a beard." Now, as your hair has been a topic of conversation. So, Murat, thanks again for coming on. Appreciate your time as we, Hustler would say, chopped it up here on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys.
There is Murat Atesh of The Athletic. Follow him on X, formerly known as Twitter, WPG Murat, and make sure you're checking out The Athletic and subscribing for some great content. We're winding it down here. Last half hour of the show. We'll get some comments here from comments from Cole Perfetti, and I'll talk more with Connor about games around the NHL. So here we go. Here's us.
We have to give a big cheers from Winnipeg Sports Talk to our friends at Little Brown Jug, Winnipeg's favorite local beer company, featuring their flagship 1919 and their newest generic lager, my personal favorite, a 4-5 domestic style beer brewed locally, fresh and crisp to the taste. And listen, generic right now, not only can you find it along with 1919 on your next trip to Canada Life Center, up in Craft Beer Corner in section 310 in the upper bowl, or 126 in the lower bowl. You'll also find it at your local beer store and Manitoba liquor marts at a great low price of $19.99 for an 8-pack of Tall Boys. If you haven't tried generic lager yet, try local. I'm sure you will enjoy it, and maybe the best place to check it out, along with all of the Little Brown Jug offerings, is down at their brewery and tap room on William Avenue. You can also find out more on Little Brown Jug, ordering and local delivery options, along with their great merchandise, online at littlebrownjug.ca. Every sports fan in Winnipeg pretty much knows that if you're in the market for some new Jets merch or Bomber gear, or your favorite team from another league, there's only one place you need to go, and that, of course, is the Royal Sports Superstore at 750 Pembina Highway. 40,000 square feet of the biggest inventory you'll find anywhere, featuring all the home teams and the top teams from all of your favorite leagues and whatnot around the world. But it's not just great fan merchandise at Royal Sports. Take advantage of winter, or what's left of it, with their incredible hockey section, skates, both for high-end players as well as recreational skaters, not to mention snowboards, boots, bindings, and all the cool stuff on the King's Skate, Snow, and Surf side. You've got to see it to believe it for yourself. Head on down to Royal Sports at 750 Pembina Highway, and make sure to follow them on Instagram for the latest merchandise drops and sale information at Royal Sports Pembina. And hey, big shout out to our friends at Boston Pizza. If you're thinking about gathering with your friends for the big game, there's nowhere better to do it than your local BP. You know you'll have the game on the massive screens in Boston Pizza. The sound from the commentators up on the sound system. And most importantly, and most popular, win or lose, you'll be enjoying ice-cold schooners, world-famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and great Boston pizza hospitality. And heck, 7 days a week, if you can't make it out to your local BP, you can always order online and get it hot and fast to your door by ordering at bostonpizza.com.
All right, there's Hess, and before we get into more on tonight's game, just wanted to mention, if you're looking for single game Winnipeg Jets tickets, winnipegjets.com/tickets. I mean, who wouldn't want to spend a nice Valentine's Day here watching the Jets hopefully get a win against the Sharks, Minnesota Wild on Tuesday, Arizona Sunday the 25th, then St. Louis is here, and moving on into March. And season tickets available. Check it out, winnipegjets.com/tickets. And I have heard from a number of season ticket holders over the last couple days. One, they had that great photo event earlier this week where you go take your photo and you bring the kids, get some pictures with some players, go on the ice, go in the penalty box, and some nice perks heading into the playoffs. I've been told. So check that out there, winnipegJets.com/tickets. But we're here talking about Jets, Sharks tonight. A lot of talk about Cole Perfetti. He's on line 2 with Sean Monahan and Gabe Vilardi. He hasn't scored a point in 7 games, but Perfetti stepped up to the mic after today's optional morning skate, and he talked about the Jets' play coming into tonight's game.
I think everyone was a little tight that, we were on such a good streak there, and then obviously you hit a little bit of a wall. And I think, everyone's just a little bit of relief to get that one back. And then now I think, that was a good week of practice, and the guys feel loose again, and the guys feel, in a really good frame of mind. So looking for a big one tonight. The record might not show up, but they're actually really, they played really good. They play us really hard, both games against us. I mean, they beat us, and then it was a tight one the second one. So they work real hard. They got a young group that's, pretty skilled, and, when, they work that hard, it's hard to play against. And they play us tough, so it's not going to be easy by any means tonight. It's going to be a hard-fought game, and we need these 2 points, so we're going to, we know what we have to do, and, looking forward to it.
Yeah, Cole Perfetti said he's looking forward to tonight's game. Oh, well, anyways, moving on. He's playing with Vilardi and Sean Monahan. And here's Perfetti and trying to find chemistry with Sean Monahan.
Yeah, it's getting better. I don't think anyone, expected it to, be a Picasso right away. I think it takes, a couple practices. It takes a couple, games to get used to one another. And, he's getting used to the system and as a team and, life in Winnipeg. There's a whole bunch of stuff that he's got to get used to. And then we got to, me and Gabe are got to get kind of adapt to his play style. And he's got to adapt to us. So we knew it was going to take a little bit of time. But, I think we're all pretty confident that, we all think the game really well. We all are really talented, skilled players, so I think this line can be really good. We just got to find that and like you said, communication, talk to one another, and I think I'm excited for this line. I think there's a lot that we can do. So we knew it was going to take a little bit of time, but hopefully now, a couple games in and a couple practices in, we're found our mojo and we can get going.
One thing they did in the dressing room there is they seated Perfetti next to Monahan. I mean, makes sense. You want a guys play together, have them sit together in the room. And here is Cole Perfetti talking about sitting beside him in the dressing room.
So that's the main thing. I mean, obviously sitting beside him, it gives you an opportunity to go over some stuff in the periods or, stuff in practice. It has that little easier communication with one another. So, we're definitely talking between games and what we saw in the period and what we liked, what we didn't like, where we think we could help one another and whatnot. So we're going to have to continue that. Like I said, he's brand new to the system, so he's, learning lots and trying to adapt to everyone. And so if we can make his life a little bit easier, me and Gabe, then that's our goal. And like I said, there's a lot to like about this line. We just got to, click. And I think, last couple of games we've been just off. We've done all the right intentions and right things. It's just the final play, the final execution of the play is just wasn't there. So hopefully we can, get on the right page and start clicking.
There he is, Cole Perfetti looking to get on the right page with his line mates and start clicking, bringing back Connor Hrabchak. Connor, I guess that's about it. Trying to get there and putting the puck at the back of the net, right, for line 2. And I think they've been doing the right things, and you think that it's going to come here tonight against San Jose.
Yeah, I mean, I made the prediction at the start. Monahan's getting his first point as a Jet tonight. Cole Perfetti's going to have to be a big part of that. He played really well against Pittsburgh on the Saturday, I thought, at least in that second line, especially in the first period. But yeah, the chemistry is going to come eventually with those two. Gabriel Vilardi, again, like I said earlier, outspoken about how he didn't like his play on Saturday. So I think that whole line is kind of in line for a bounce back game. I think there's no better time than tonight. You heard Murat talk about a lot about how Monahan can help the power play when he is in that spot and when he is comfortable. And he also said how he'd like to see the power play get a run of games. So I think we haven't seen the best version of Sean Monahan yet as a Winnipeg Jet. Obviously, he hasn't scored any points, so that's not a groundbreaking statement by any means. But I think his best hockey is going to be shown here in the next 2 weeks as he gains more chemistry and gets acclimated on that top power play unit, and the Jets get more opportunities there.
Yeah, curious to see what happens. You mentioned the power play. They did practice it yesterday. And here's Morrissey after practice yesterday just talking about getting some additional work in.
Yeah, obviously, it's nice to get some practice time. You don't get that a lot during the season, especially once things get going. So, looking back really since December, then you go into the Christmas break, and we kind of went right into a pretty solid schedule. So it's nice to get this time. Try to make the most of it, obviously work on some special teams, work on some unique situations, and honestly, as a player, just have a chance to work on a few more things in practice, kind of that you can't really do in just morning skates. So it's nice, obviously, try and be ready for tomorrow's game, a couple more days before we play Vancouver. So use this week to get sharp and, like I said, work on some of those things you don't get a chance to normally.
A big showdown there Saturday, Jets and Canucks. But first, I see on TSN, Connor, they have a headline, cookie night tonight it's a cookie night for the Jets, and that's referencing a comment that Drew Doughty made about the LA Kings a couple weeks ago when it wasn't going for that was before they fired the coach. And just taking a look around the league, Connor, it's not going well for the LA Kings. They fired the coach, losing 7-0 to the Buffalo Sabres yesterday. I mean, isn't it just kind of fascinating what's happened with them after this trade?
Yeah, and I think someone in my Twitter mentions I tweeted out that score and just said like the LA Kings ... And someone in my mentions was saying how their fantasy matchup got cost because Kopitar had a -6 plus minus, so he just completely tanked their fantasy matchup. Like even Anze Kopitar, like everyone's quick to jump and say Dubois, but if Kopitar's a -6, like that's one of the best two-way players in the league and has been for the last decade plus, right? So the LA Kings, yeah, they are not playing well as of late. I was just looking at the Sharks' recent schedule. They actually beat the Kings going into the break. The Sharks picked up points in 6 of their last 7 games heading into the break. Now, they haven't played in 2 weeks since then. No Tomas Hertl, no Logan Couture. So the circumstances are definitely different. But this team was playing good hockey, and they beat the Kings, who are struggling mightily, to say, which is an absolute understatement. Like they're in a danger of missing the playoffs at this point if they keep sliding. And the coaching change has done them no favors yet, at least.
Yeah, we haven't done much basking in the glow of the standings since the Jets moved out of first place. But
right.
Just looking here, we can go NHL.com, click standings. I don't know what everyone's favorite website is, but this is mine. The Kings, they're still holding down that wild card spot. 58 points in 50 games. St. Louis has the second spot, 58 points. But there's Nashville and Calgary, although they have less points and they've played more games. Same with Seattle. So it seems like the Kings are still in there. We know how hard it is to make up ground. Maybe the Wild go on a run, or Arizona. I mean, Arizona's still, they're like 8 points back. I don't know. It seems like it's the Kings. If they lost, it would be a huge collapse. One team that was down there before, now at the top, they had the huge win streak. They're 8-2-0 in their last 10. Edmonton, I mean, absolutely incredible, the turnaround. And how about Connor McDavid last night? 6-point night, 6-assist night, 600 career assists. Pretty incredible what Edmonton has done. After we all sat here and laughed at them when they lost and fired their coach and were in danger of missing the playoffs. We were like, they need to go on some historic run to get back in, and here we are.
Yeah, and then guess what they did? Yeah, exactly. No, but the Connor McDavid, like, unbelievable. 6 assists. I swear I was scrolling like Twitter, Instagram last night, and I saw 3 different assists of his as like highlights. And it's like a 6-assist night, like casually. 3 of them are like all-world highlight reel. He did like a spinorama one where he backhanded it right onto a guy's tape in the slot. It's like, that would, if a Jets player did that, that would be like the highlight of the year. But for McDavid, it's just like another assist, one of his 6 on the night, because why not? He's unbelievable to watch, and I find myself watching the Oilers more, like outside of the Jets. I think I find myself watching the Oilers more than any other team in the league, simply because Connor McDavid is one of the most enjoyable hockey players to watch that I've ever seen in my life. Them, the Penguins, the Blackhawks, all for the reasons, McDavid, Crosby, Bedard, the new generation now. But yeah, like the Edmonton Oilers are just an absolute blast to watch because Connor McDavid is just doing crazy things, and it seems like no one can stop him. And it's bad news for Jets fans and people in the Western Conference that the Oilers are back. But as an NHL enjoyer, it's fun to watch Connor McDavid just do dumb, crazy things on a nightly basis.
Yeah, 4th fastest player in NHL history to 600 career assists. He's got 616 games to 600 assists, which is crazy. Bobby Orr, 608 games, 600 assists. Lemieux, 514. And Gretzky, an absurd 416 games to 600 assists. I see people tweeting out that his assist total is greater than the point total from anyone in his draft class. And we saw it on display at the All-Star Skills Competition. I mean, it wasn't a fluke that he just smoked everyone in that. So I agree. Edmonton is up there for me. It helps that they're in a good time zone, mountain time zone. The games are on later, and I do enjoy watching their power play. Another team whose power play I enjoy watching, Toronto. They were missing a couple guys yesterday. Morgan Rielly, John Tavares, and Mitch Marner. There were jokes that Marner and Tavares had to miss. They were just so ill after watching that. They had missed with illness. They were just so ill after watching Grieg have a slap or an empty net. But amazing how everyone on their team just stepped up for their best defensive effort on the season against a St. Louis team that's been pretty good yesterday.
And is in the playoffs, right? So St. Louis, a playoff team, Toronto missing those players like you mentioned. Yeah, an impressive win. I don't know if you saw Ryan Reeves get kind of like crushed along the wall by that Blues player, and Twitter was going nuts, as they kind of should. I mean, Ryan Reeves the other day said like, "Let's make hockey violent again" or something, and then that happened. So I think it was rightfully. I think Twitter had the green light to dunk on him in that scenario. But the Blues Twitter, I don't know if you saw this as well, Remo, but they had an all-timer because the Leafs scored an empty net goal, and they basically tweeted out like, "Oh no, an empty net goal in Toronto. That doesn't usually mean anything good," or something like that, something along those lines. But that Twitter account definitely had that ready. Even though they lost, it would have been even better if the Blues had scored the empty net goal. But yeah, impressive performance by the Leafs. But the most notable things about that game for me were just scrolling Twitter, seeing the Blues tweet that, and Ryan Reeves get kind of lit up along the wall.
Yeah, the Blues team account taking shots at the Leafs, and I wonder if that's going to be a thing all year where teams try to go for the style points on the empty netter against Toronto, just trolling them even more. I hope you know what? I thought I did not appreciate the original open net clapper, but the more we talk about it, the more ridiculous the whole thing is. So that was something from yesterday. And, we were on Ovechkin watch. Ovechkin, he's chasing down Gretzky. He's got a 5-game goal streak, and he's back on pace. Here it is. 6 straight games with a goal, 58 goals back of Wayne Gretzky's all-time mark. He's got 30 games, 2 years on his deal. So he's got he just needs a 25-goal, 82-game pace. So all eyes on Ovechkin as he goes down. What an all-time great he is.
Yeah, and I'm glad to see this happening. I think seeing that in our lifetime would be so cool. Like a player in the modern era that holds the goals record, like that would just be unbelievable. And it was looking dicey there to start the year. Like Ovechkin has clearly lost a step. He wasn't scoring goals from the left circle. Like he didn't have the same power on that slap shot that he has had. Obviously, he's much older now, so he's not in the middle of his prime. But last year, I think he had over 40 goals. Like he was up there in goals, and it's kind of a sharp decline. But he's starting to heat up a little bit here as the season rolls along, which is good to see because I want him to get the record. I want to have that attached to, one of the players I grew up watching, Alexander Ovechkin, like arguably the greatest goal scorer of all time when you take into account era and modern scoring and things like that already. Never mind the fact he could literally hold the number one spot when his career's done.
Yeah, he missed seasons because of lockouts. I think his birth year is super late as well, or his birth date is late in the year. Lockouts and the pandemic shortened season, so he's definitely had stuff working against him. But to chase down Gretzky, something we're going to keep an eye on here as the season moves along. There was one other site here as we get into the cool bet lines. Phil Kessel, we see him back in the league signing a tryout with Abbotsford. And here he is on the ice in Abbotsford. Rick Dollywall of Donnie and Dolly. And I don't think he's going to be in time for like Saturday or anything, but there he is. I like those Abbotsford, that logo, but there he is back on the ice. So he's been working hard in the gym. We wondered who would be the veteran free agent. We saw Parise sign with Colorado. The other one, Corey Perry, signing with Edmonton. And now Vancouver, they're pretty close to locking something down with Phil. So that'd be kind of cool, hey?
Yeah, and Patrick Kane as well. He's not as much of a veteran.
Oh, yeah.
But he was coming off hip surgery, kind of middle of the season there. The Red Wings picked him up, or maybe a few weeks into the season. I don't really remember. But yeah, I mean, another player who's had a long career. And it's nice to see. I don't know like what the end game is here. Like maybe Phil Kessel is like a fourth line, third line player for Vancouver at the absolute best. But again, it's still nice to see. He's had a great career, so why not give him another shot, get him down in the AHL, get his hands and legs back, and hopefully he can make an NHL impact very soon.
Yeah, people noting a bit of a smorgasbord here of equipment. He's got a Vegas helmet and Coyotes gloves, Canucks pants, Abbotsford jersey. So I guess put on whatever you have and get to the rink, and we'll see that shot again.
He looks like a beer league player that buys all of their equipment pro stock.
Yeah,
and it's just like, oh, it's on clearance. Vegas helmet, Coyotes gloves, Canucks pants. Yeah,
there you
pro
go.
stock. Why not?
Yeah, and not quite a 35+ veteran, but yeah, Jesse Puljujarvi did sign with signed with Pittsburgh as well. So here, let's check out the cool bet lines. It's Wednesday, only 3 games around the league. As I bring up the lines here, I don't know if you got your eye on any of these, but we got Pittsburgh. They're back home after here on Saturday. They're hosting Florida, who, man, they're good. Florida, they're a really strong team. Pittsburgh home dog +109, Florida -128. The Jets, as I mentioned, huge, massive favorite, -446. And the Coyotes and Wild close to a pick 'em. Coyotes -101, Wild -117. That's kind of I think it's a must-win for both teams. They're both trying to get into the standings. I don't know if you've got a thought on any of these games outside of the Jets game tonight.
Outside of the Jets game, I don't really think so. I mean, Florida, I was just looking at their schedule here. Since coming back from the break, they lost to the Flyers in their first game, but then beat the Capitals and beat the Avs 4-0. And I did like how Pittsburgh played against Winnipeg both times this week, but like you said, Florida's very good. So I don't mind that. As for the Wild Coyotes game, that game I think is just a little too close. Two teams that, like you said, will be playing desperate. So I don't have one there. But yeah, obviously. Then we get to the local game, the Jets game, -2.5 on the puck line.
Yeah.
You don't see that very often, to say the least. So yeah, Vegas is expecting a lot of goals from Winnipeg tonight and a win.
Sure, we can look at some goal props if you want to get into that. If you want, let's say you want Sean Monahan to get his first as a Jet, +240. You have Connor Scheifele, Ehlers as the top options. Velarde, Perfetti, Monahan, Niederreiter +280, Lowry +315, and And then you got, the top line, Zetterlund, who seems to always score. So there's your, scores.
How many Jets players are there before Fabian Zetterlund? Like, there are so many players with higher odds to score a goal before the first Sharks player.
It has the Jets' top 2 lines plus Niederreiter and Lowry before. So 8 players on the Jets before.
Wow.
I mean, let's say you want to get over 1.5 goals. Kyle Connor, he's due, man. I think he's due plus 530. We talked about a cookie night. Cool Bet certainly thinks it's going to be cookie night here for the Jets.
That's like a cursed word. Like, don't say that, or else it might end up the same way it did for Drew Doughty. It's just
making it kind of nervous seeing this big of a favorite. And if you think Monahan is going to get his first point as a Jet, you got to scroll down. Oh, they don't have him. No, they don't have him. They have Velarde and Perfetti, so they have a minus 130. If you think they're going to break their point scoring droughts, Perfetti minus 119, not bad. Niederreiter plus 101. That guy's on the third line, second power play, crazy. What do you think? Shots on goal. So it was player shots. Here it is.
Oh, you could total shots. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's it. People like Kyle Connor over 3.5, but doesn't pay much. Ehlers over 3.5 plus 105. That's not bad actually. So I would go with that, or Scheifele over 2.5. But I don't know. He hasn't been shooting that much.
That's the thing. All those top line players, like, you could be one shot away, and then on a 2-on-1, they overpass, and then you just that's it, right? And Murat kind of talked about the overpassing a little bit there. I don't know. Maybe tonight, with the potential of a lot of goals, they just fire a lot of pucks on net.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm enjoying the chat. We got how many people in here? Shout out to everyone here. If you're still here, thumbs up, subscribe, really helps us out. But T-Will, not feeling that comedy, saying, I'm seeing more trap game than cookie night. No way, T-Will. It's Valentine's Day. Come on, the Jets are going to bring it. So Randy D wants he wants me to do a food poll. Not happening, but we're looking forward to tomorrow. We're recapping the game, and it is Valentine's Day. I thought I would end it with naming, it's Taylor and Travis week. I don't know if you've got a favorite sports couple, but I've got my list here. Here we go.
You go ahead, because I'll tell you, given the weekend I had and the week I've had, Taylor and Travis aren't at the top of my list.
They're not at the top of your list for favorite all-time sports couple. And, I do have to mention the parade is going on, and I'm just seeing in chat reports of a shooting happening, 10 people injured. That is a scary thing, and I hope everyone there is okay. That's a horrible thing to happen in what should be a moment of celebration, but I did see some nice videos of Travis Kelce holding a microphone who can barely stand. And I love parades, the sports parades for moments like that. We all saw William Karlsson at the Vegas parade, and I don't know, Travis Kelce taking one. But here's sports couples in honor of Taylor and Travis for the Chiefs parade on Valentine's Day. I got Val Bure and Candace Cameron. That's an original. Russell Wilson and Ciara, Tony Romo, Jessica Simpson. She was on there a lot, back when he played, but that only didn't last very long. Jarrett Stoll and Aaron Andrews still together. Kim Kardashian. I'll go with Chris Humphries. Chloe and Lamar was a big one. A-Rod and Kate Hudson. She was in the stands quite a bit. Dion Phaneuf and Alicia Cuthbert. And the ultimate hockey one, because someone said, what's the hockey equivalent of Taylor and Travis? Mike Fisher and Carrie Underwood, and she was there. She was there in Predators gear when they were in the Cup final. So that's my list there of sports couples in honor of Taylor and Travis and Valentine's Day.
It's a very, very solid list. I'll offer up a few names, or just one actually that came to my mind, and it's only in spite of the Kelsey Swift Chiefs Super Bowl thing. Claire Kittle and George Kittle, 49ers tight end, and his wife. That is my number one sports couple in honor of Valentine's Day. There you go. I had to say one. I'll say the 49ers.
What about top designer Kristen Juszczyk, Kyle Juszczyk's
wife,
who signed a deal with the NFL? There you go.
Christian McCaffrey, and Olivia Culpo.
Oh, yeah.
That's 3.
There you go. So Valentine's Day, ending with love. I hope everyone has a wonderful Valentine's Day, and hopefully we're here talking about what a great cookie night it was for the Jets, right? Oreos, the Decadent, Chips Ahoy. Name your favorite. You got a favorite cookie?
This is really putting me on the spot. I do just like a simple chocolate chip cookie, like just a really good simple chocolate chip, whether it's like anything store bought, anything from bakeries at grocery stores, just chocolate chip. I don't overthink it. I just go. I do love chocolate chip cookies, but I'll rarely venture out. But yeah, I just usually go Sobeys or Walmart and just straight to the bakery chocolate chip. That's my call.
There we go. Well, thanks, Connor. Appreciate it. We'll touch base again on Friday in honor of Cookie Night, listing our favorite cookie. There he is, Connor Hrabchak. Yeah, no problem, Connor. Follow him on X, formerly known as Twitter, Connor Hrabchak 1. Follow me, Remis. I'm on there. Don't take anything I say on there too seriously. I feel like I write extreme sarcasm on there, and people don't know, and I just get stuff in my mention. So hey, thanks again for coming out. Appreciate everyone who came to the show and listen. T-Will putting some pressure on me for the outro. I'll see you guys all tomorrow. Thank you for listening, and bye-bye.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.